It's not in the sitting down. If we could have everybody, we're running a couple minutes over for starting. Good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to the November 4th Water Committee meeting. And I'd like to acknowledge that we are meeting today on the traditional unceded territory of the Comox First Nation. And we do have most directors in the room. I believe we have Director Hardy online, and we have alternate Director Monroe here for Area A. And I believe those are the only changes for today. So the first item on our agenda is the resolution status report. That's moved and seconded. Any questions or comments on that report? Seeing none, is there anyone opposed to receipt? Seeing none, that's carried. And the next item is the Comox Valley Water Management Advisory Minutes. Moved and seconded. Any questions or comments on that, on those minutes? Okay, we've got Director Hillian. Thank you.
Excuse me, Chair. I just have to clarify whether I'm on the right report or not. Is this the one that talks about the amount of water that was used, and it was a record summer that we had in terms of consumption?
No, I believe that one is
further is that, down. That's further down. All right.
Yeah.
My apologies. I'll come back.
Okay. Thank you. That was easy. Okay. Any opposition to receipt of those minutes? Seeing none, that's carried. And we have exciting topic, Water Master Plan update today, and I believe we'll be turning it over to staff to. Great. Moved and seconded.
Thank you, Chair. Zoe Berkey, our Senior Engineering Analyst, will be introducing this report and available for the discussion to follow. Zoe.
Thanks, James. This staff report is intended to provide an update on the water master planning process that's underway for the Comox Valley water system. So the water master plan is intended to provide a comprehensive plan for the system that considers current and future water demands, infrastructure requirements to meet future needs, and a review of water conservation initiatives, along with a review of separation of transmission and distribution systems. The draft plan is nearing completion. However, the capital improvement plan is very complex with a variety of options that are available to solve future capacity challenges, but each one must be weighed between transmission and distribution. To address this complex plan, CVRD staff are planning to meet with municipal staff over the coming months to review and collaborate on the draft water master plan and further the discussion on separation of transmission and distribution prior to presenting to the water committee. So we are aiming to have the draft water master plan, the final water master plan in your hands by spring of 2026. That's all from me today, but happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you for that. And any questions or comments on that update? Wow, I guess we wore everybody out during the sewage meeting. Okay, well, thank you so much for the update. Do you have a month, or are you not going to stick to early spring, mid-spring? Oh, sorry, I didn't realize that you were all, there we go. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm hoping mid-spring. I think it's going to just be dependent on when we can get the meetings with the member municipalities and work through the process. It kind of feels like a thread that you just keep pulling, and every time we think we get one answer, another thing comes up. So really hoping mid-spring, pending no new surprises.
Right, thank you. And I just want to acknowledge that we have had a bit of interest in the water service, particularly in the last couple of years, around conservation, but of course tied into that is all these other considerations around infrastructure, et cetera. And it'll be great when we're able to deliver that full plan so that the public can see how one thing impacts another, and we can't just make decisions about one thing without looking at the plan as a whole. So I'm sure everyone's waiting in anticipation for that. Okay, so we are on receipt of that. Is there anyone opposed to receipt? Seeing none, that's carried. And the next item, we can have Director Hillian on the alert, is the water drought restrictions and conservation update. Moved and seconded, and turn it over to staff.
Thank you very much. And I will note, I think that the advisory minutes earlier did speak about the water consumption report, where the comment was made about the record-breaking consumption or something there. And this report is actually the water drought restrictions, the closeout report from the summertime reporting. So, but I'm sure that staff is able to respond to the
Okay,
question.
so
Yeah.
as usual, Director Hillian was right. It was that last those minutes, but hopefully we can cover his query in this report.
For sure, yeah. So Zoe Norcross is our watershed protection coordinator, and I believe Zoe will be introducing this report for the commission, for the committee. So Zoe, over to you.
Thank you. Go ahead.
So yes, in 2024, so last year, the CVRD began providing monthly updates, reporting out on drought conditions and water restrictions for each of the 6 drinking water systems managed by the CVRD. And the purpose of this was to ensure that elected officials maintained a good understanding of water availability and demand throughout the summer season in the event that extreme conditions might require advanced water restrictions. So this year we have added water consumption graphs for each of the systems to provide a visual representation of how this year's consumption compares to the previous 5 years. This has been helpful in showing positive results of leak detection work that significantly reduced water consumption in Union Bay, as well as highlighting excessive water use from suspected leaks on private property in Black Creek. Water consumption in the Comox Valley water system also reached a new record high this year of over 1.5 million cubic meters, and also the highest maximum day demand on record as well. In the summer 2025, it was a relatively mild year in terms of drought, not exceeding drought level 3, whereas drought level 5 was reached in 2024. As with 2024, none of the CVRD's water systems required water restrictions above level 2 in 2025, and all of the water restrictions were removed by mid-October. Water conservation rebate uptake fell in 2025. But what we're looking forward to next is changes and improvements to CVRD's water conservation strategies, being pending completion of the Water Master Plan that was spoken to by Zoe Berkey in early 2026. So we're looking to the Water Master Plan to provide guidance for where we should focus our energy in terms of water conservation measures moving forward. And that's it for this report. If you have any questions, we'll try to answer them for you. Great, thank you. We'll go over to Director Hillian.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, this was the report that had piqued my interest. And I just wanted to get some clarification. In the report, under the Black Creek Oyster Bay section, it talks about water consumption being significantly higher, and then it gives a reason for it, unaccounted water through leaks and such. But there's no explanation for why consumption in the overall water system was at its highest level the last 5 years in July of 2025. Are we to surmise that's just a function of increased population, or are there some other factors that you might be aware of that caused that historic high in July of this year?
Yeah, through the chair. Yeah, I guess to your point, our assumption is that it's relating to community growth. So we have, as we all know, the core community, the core area of the valley has grown significantly. So there's significant variation year over year in terms of climate. You know, the level of rain, the level of heat does drive watering habits quite a bit. But then in the background, we have this steady growth. Actually not so steady growth recently. So, you know, when weather and the growth coincide, you know, we tend to see our peaks or our kind of highest consumptions yet. So I think that's how we've explained it. We don't have any, certainly, there's no indication that that there's been an increase in the level of leakage. It's our assumption that's relating to growth in combination with quite a number of hot days.
Thanks. And just as a follow-up, is there any concern with that level, and that we should be discouraging consumption reaching that sort of level and perhaps imposing restrictions that would, because I note that we didn't have to go to stage 3 this past summer. The water levels in the river seem to be fairly up for most of the summer, and maybe people get lulled into a false sense of abundance and use more.
Yeah, I'd say there's definitely concern. If from a infrastructure perspective, the peak days that those high peak days do put a strain on our infrastructure. The water master plan is looking at capacity, and a peak day is what drives the size of reservoirs and pipes. But then it also is looking at water conservation, both to help mitigate impacts on peak day, but also mitigate impacts on our water license and on our kind of impacts on the local ecosystem. So I think there is cause for concern both from an infrastructure sizing perspective, from our water license. So yeah, for those reasons, we are really emphasizing the importance of the water conservation element of the water master plan. As Zoe mentioned, we do have plans. Like we anticipate rolling out some significant improvements to our water conservation approach, both in terms of rebates, restrictions, and education. And we plan to work very closely with our municipal counterparts. We continue to support them in their own efforts through education, enforcement, and potentially a shift towards greater universal water metering. Yeah.
Great, thank you. And Director Grieve.
Well, yes, that's important. The point I'm working towards a universal water metering, and
Sorry, Director Grieve, I'm not sure that we can hear you on the microphone. Your light's on, but. Try again.
Is it 8? Oh.
maybe yours is working.
Oh, now we've got a new one. There we go.
If ever I should leave you.
Test.
There's no rubber glue. Yeah.
Really?
Oh, no, the screen is off.
Okay.
I'm taking notes there, Grant.
Okay.
It's just the same old spiel.
Okay, I think we can hear you now, hopefully. No? No? Just trying to find a working mic here. Oh,
Hello, my
okay,
name is Doug
great.
Hillian, and I'd like to thank everybody for everything they've ever done. No, this is the same old story. We talked about this a long time, but as you know, this board was moving towards universal water metering. I think in 2011, the change of plan. A certain mayor got elected, and we have plenty of water. We live in a rainforest, and it all kind of disappeared. But when you talk about water conservation, you know that it's a proven fact that if you have universal metering and you have a tiered system that rewards people for using less water, that consumption goes down around 30%. So I'm just wondering, is there any appetite in our major municipality to revisit water metering for their water users? Because it's going to get to a point where this is going to be unsustainable, and all the infrastructure, all the chemicals we use, all that stuff is about 30% greater than it could be if we went down that road. Thank you.
Thanks, Director Grieve. I'm going to allow us to digress a little bit so that Mayor Wells can maybe comment on Courtney's up to, and then we'll get back to this report. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'll wear my director's hat, mayor's hat here, but for sure, this is something that our council has been really clear with our staff on, and our staff are bringing back a report to get us onto that path. So, and show us what those options are and what those updated costs are as well. Because as we've heard today at other meetings, you know, those costs can be a bit of a sticking point. And it is unfortunate that, you know, when we got the grant money for the water treatment center, water meters were a actual criteria and requirement for that. And then I think it might have been an election year provincially or something, and all of a sudden, though that requirement kind of vanished. So it is unfortunate that we're in the place that we are right now. But just so you know, the city of Courtney hears you loud and clear, and we do have staff coming forward with a report to help us get onto that path.
Thank you so much for answering that. I had a question about the rebates. Obviously, we're seeing that they're being utilized, and we're seeing the costs, the amount rebated going down because they're being fully subscribed to. I guess I'm wondering, obviously in the master plan, we're going to have some new and exciting ideas for conservation. Are these funds that we budgeted, do they roll over to the next year? Like, do we have a little accumulation of money to get us jump started on the new initiatives coming up?
So our practice has not been to carry forward the amount. But that being said, we have been carrying a healthy amount annually, significantly higher than what's shown as being
Right.
the take up in the report there. So no, we haven't carried forward, but we are planning to budget the similar level next year, and definitely sufficient to support the rebate program that we'll be bringing forward as a recommendation to the committee.
Okay, great. Just want to make sure we have a lot in the kitty for that. Okay, any other questions or comments on this report? Okay, seeing none. Anyone opposed to receipt? Seeing none, that's carried. And the last item we have is the Village of Cumberland OCP update. And this is regarding watershed protection, and we'll turn it back over to staff to talk about this. Thanks.
Thank you, through the chair. This is a good news story. In 2016, the CVRD completed our watershed protection plan, which was required by Island Health as a condition of our operating permit for the Comox Valley water system. And in that plan was a recommendation that no new development be allowed within the Comox Lake watershed. So when the village began pursuing development of the Bevan industrial lands, CVRD staff recognized that a portion of these lands that were slated for development fell within the watershed and could theoretically be used for heavy industrial purposes that could be harmful to water quality. So at that point, the need for a really accurate delineation of the watershed became clear. So CVRD hired a consultant to carry out a LiDAR-based watershed delineation that would provide really high accuracy, and a surface and groundwater flow direction analysis as well. So the idea there was that in the Bevan area, there's just been so much industrial development and disturbance of the land over the years that it was really important to get a better understanding based on all the alterations of the land where the actual watershed boundary was in terms of flow, the direction of flow, which way the water is flowing. So when the study was complete in February 2023, it was presented to the Water Committee, which at that time passed a resolution stating that the CVRD staff should work with village staff to ensure that development of the Bevan lands minimized water quality impacts to the Comox Lake watershed. So some of you may remember that report. CVRD shared the updated watershed boundary with the village after that, and requested that the village not allow harmful industrial use of the lands within the Comox Lake watershed. So the village has now completed a draft OCP update, and this update has revised its boundaries for industrial development within the Bevan lands and has excluded the lands that fall within the Comox Lake watershed, with lands inside the watershed boundary being designated as parks, greenway, and open space. So this will ensure that there are no impacts to water quality from these lands, and that the lands within Bevan Industrial Complex that fall within the Comox Lake watershed will not be developed. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Great, thank you for that. Any questions or comments? Director Hillian.
Thanks, Chair. Just to say this is indeed a good news story, and thanks to staff for the work with Cumberland to ensure that this moves to fruition.
That's great. I agree. Great news story. We have alternate director Wells. Go ahead.
Yeah, and maybe just to follow up on that, when we were going through our troubles with water quality, Cumberland was in lockstep with us as well, doing meetings with ministers, et cetera. And it's really good to see sort of a Team Comox Valley approach on this. So again, just really, really proud to see everybody working together. Thank you.
Okay, thanks so much. We've moved and seconded receipt. Is there anyone opposed to receipt? Seeing none, that's carried, and that's the end of our agenda for today. And we are adjourned. Thanks, folks.